Greetings, folks of cinema. I hope you're all doing okay. Today we are here to talk about Christopher Nolan's newest film, The Odyssey. I want to begin by apologizing. Mr. Nolan, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I underestimated your game. At the beginning of this year, I did a ranking of the films I was most excited for, and I ranked The Odyssey pretty low because I felt like it wouldn't live up to the hype it we were expecting it to be. It wouldn't be another fine work by Christopher Nolan. I ranked it lower than films like Michael and Werewolf, and it's safe to say that this film has proven me wrong. Although Werewolf hasn't yet released, but I felt like this film was better than Michael. It wasn't better than films like Project Hail Mary because it's on its own different level, but The Odyssey was absolutely beautiful. The first thing that I want to talk about this film is its background score. The moment I entered into the theater, I got seated onto my seat and the film began. The banging of the staff on the table and Travis Scott singing that piece of poetry, it was enough to get me hooked to the film. The background score that followed, not only that scene, but throughout every scene of this film, it was absolutely a heaven for the ears. At this point, I feel like only Hans Zimmer's Dune can compete with the score produced by Ludwig Göransson. The thing about the score was it elevated this film by a big mile. If you take the score out, this you are taking 50% of this film out because this score is just so important for this film. Every piece of background score that follows a scene just adds extreme depth, emotions to that particular scene. Background scores for scenes the where Odysseus and his men are struggling to make their way through the sea, where they are chased by the giants. It was all so beautiful. Even the background score where Odysseus fights the suitors, it was absolutely heaven to the ears. And I think that's the main reason why I love this film so much. If the score wasn't this good, I think I wouldn't have rated this film as high. The music boosted the storytelling in ways a human mind can't even fathom. It's just put each scene to a very different level. The next thing that I want to talk about is the character designs. The character designs were epic. Each character was designed very meticulously, and it was so good to see. Although these characters might not be accurate or true to the source material, the character designs, I still feel like whatever vision Christopher Nolan was going through with this film, whatever he wanted this film to look like, the setup, the color scheme, these designs fitted really well, especially Agamemnon. Agamemnon and his black armor was the highlight of this film. It wasn't Odysseus, it wasn't any other character, it was Agamemnon. My man was aura farming throughout the film, y'all. The first scene where we are introduced to him, this man just walks up in front of other soldiers and then turns back. The How the lighting falls on him, how the background score is played, the camera angles, it just makes this character so dominating. You can feel the presence, the massive presence that Agamemnon holds in the army. And then there's obviously the scene where the gates of Troy finally open. There's for a couple of seconds, the only thing that you can see in that darkness is Agamemnon, massive black figure in the dark. And that was peak aura farming. That the cinematography did a fantastic job of holding this film to a very high level. Each scene, the way it was shot, the way the characters were positioned on the screen, the way they moved, the way the lighting was there, the camera angles, it was so well planned that the result that you see on the screen is absolutely beautiful. It is a fine work of cinematography. Especially the scene where Odysseus and his men are chased and slaughtered by these giants. It felt very weirdly real, it, though it was not VFX, as we all know at this point. There were 7 feet individuals who were acting as giants. The thing with Christopher Nolan and his films is we know that he doesn't use VFX. But when you see those particular scenes where other directors or many other directors would use VFX and Christopher Nolan doesn't, you feel a bit weird about those scenes at first. At first, when I saw the giants on the screen, I didn't feel much. Okay, I felt a bit weird where I could not explain what I was feeling. But after the movie ended, I walked out of the theater. This scene played into my mind again, and I just realized how dominating those giants felt. What I felt in that moment was a bit of fear, as if I was one of Odysseus' soldier facing those giants. Because since it was not VFX, it felt like, okay, this can exist in real life, and this can happen to me in real life. I mean, this is the kind of feel that Christopher Nolan gives with his films. And the Cyclops scene as well. And I'm not sure if it was VFX. It probably wasn't. It was a big piece of mechatronics, but it also felt very real. It gave you that feeling of fear in your heart. It gave you that feeling of uneasiness, being trapped in a cave with a huge monster. I was one of Odysseus's men standing in that cave. The setup of this film was really massive, although controversial, maybe not accurate or true to the source material. You can see what Christopher Nolan was going with, what his vision was, and everything else in this film, the score, the cinematography, the character design, the sequences, they matched with this particular massive setting, the islands, the castles, the hall where the suitors were seated, the ocean, Calypso's island, the Trojan horse. It was all so well designed. It was also finely thought about. It just adds to the impressiveness this film brings on the table. The performances of the actors in this film were absolutely wonderful. Matt Damon did a really good job. You could feel the confusion Odysseus is feeling as he's navigating through the broken fragments of his memory on Calypso's island. When he was fighting the suitors in the hall, he was struggling, and that is a very fine way to show how brilliant how of a warrior he is. Christopher Nolan could have just shown that Odysseus is just swatting the suitors away like flies, but he was shown struggling there, and that is what makes him a real warrior. That is, Calypso was also designed really well. Robert Pattinson, his role really pissed me off throughout the film. The way he treated Odysseus' dog, the way he treated other people around him, the beggars, the way he treated his son, Odysseus' wife. It was all so pissing me off. I felt like if I was Odysseus, this man is the first one I'm going for. And the and I think Robert Pattinson played that character absolutely well. Anne Hathaway's performance was absolutely brilliant. John Bernthal as well. The one performance that I felt was a bit underwhelming was Tom Holland's. There were these scenes where Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson shared the screen, and you could feel the difference in the acting scale. Tom Holland is a brilliant actor, but I felt like his performance in this film was a bit underwhelming. I know how his character was meant to be a teenager who was navigating his life, was navigating between his duties, between his want of being the king and at the same time his desire to meet his father. And, it was a very well written character, and Tom Holland did a decent job of portraying it, but I expected a bit more from him since he's such a brilliant actor. Zendaya was also good. Another character I want to talk about is Helen of Troy. Although many critics, many audience much part of the audience was unhappy with the casting. I feel like the actress did a really good job portraying Helen of Troy. You can see the anger that she houses in her heart, the uneasiness, the absolute bitterness that she has in her heart. It was portrayed in every scene it was portrayed in every single scene that we saw her in. And it was a really good performances. All the performances were brilliant except, like I said, Tom Holland. The film had its own drawbacks. For example, the dialogues at some points felt not fitting to the age or era that we're talking about. Like, Daddy, are you serious? Okay, I am all in for creative freedom, but I don't think people in that particular era would be using words like that. It just felt so out of place, so cringe. Almost I cringed at that particular moment. Many people around me did, and I feel like this the dialogues could have been a bit better. The writing was good, but the dialogues felt a bit underwhelming as compared to the massive setup, the performances, the background score, and the absolutely beautiful epic that we're seeing on the screen. At the beginning of the video, I said that I apologize to Mr. Nolan, but I feel like there's one thing that Christopher Nolan needs to apologize for. It's not the inaccurate character designs. It's not the language that doesn't fit that particular era. It's entirely something else. If you're not aware of it, the Calypso Island scenes, or the scenes where the Trojan horse was first spotted on the beach, they were shot on this piece of island called Dhakla. And that island is a very controversial piece of land. It is very geopolitically disputed. The state of Morocco has illegally occupied the land for over half a century, as per the indigenous people and many international organizations. And the indigenous people also alleged that they were not asked for the permission to shoot in these particular parts. It was the state of Morocco that gave these subsidies to Christopher Nolan and his production team without seeking the permission or without consulting with the indigenous people that live on that land. And they did not get anything out of that particular film. They did not get any profit, they did not get any source of income, which is really sad. And because as a director, when you're directing a film, when you're making a film which talks about love, which talks about peace, which talks about the ill effects on unwanted war and violence, you need to understand, you need to take care that you're not promoting or you're not whitewashing another kind of violence. Because in this case, it's just some sort of whitewashing that Christopher Nolan has done. And I'm pretty sure that Christopher Nolan might be aware of the controversies regarding this land, and he should have been more careful. It wouldn't have mattered if the scenes were shot on some other island. Maybe it wouldn't have fit his vision exactly, but it would have still turned out beautiful. Because now, after I watched this film and I learned about this case, I really don't feel that well, and my respect for Christopher Nolan has dropped because I admire him as a director. I love him as a director. He did a really, really good job as a director. He excelled while making this film, but I feel like he also failed as a human being. If he knew about the controversies regarding the island of Thakla, and he still chose to shoot there, which I most probably think is the case. So yeah, anyways, that is all about the Odyssey. You guys let me know what your thoughts are, what you expected from this film, if you're impressed by this film, what you hated about this film, where you felt that this film could have done much better. Do let me know in the comments. This is all from my side. I'll be putting the Spider-Man Brand New Day video out soon. I'm still working on it. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. See you soon, folks of cinema.